Dean, thank you very much. As you know, you're a dear friend, and I'm deeply honored that you invited me to share a little with you. And distinguished faculty, parents, friends, and of course, all of you graduates, congratulations. You know, I'm so thrilled, and I can tell the difference in schools, that there is a genuine belief in that this business is about hospitality and leadership, which occurs here at BU. And it doesn't happen in every school. You can see it, you can sense it, you can feel it. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about both those issues. That is your future. Now, you're about to head into a major commitment in the hospitality business, which will be very rewarding, but maybe not completely rewarding. An example, the other day I had to call a plumber. My sink was stopped up. Called the plumber, came over. He looked at the drain and he said, hang on a second. He gets out a little tool. About 30 seconds later, it's cleared. I said, that's amazing, that's terrific. I wish I could have done that. He said, all right, great, that'll be $750. I said, well, that's crazy. You've been here 3 minutes. He said, no, let me just tell you something. My normal rate's $1,500 an hour. I'm just charging you for half an hour. And I said, you know, I'm the head of a major hotel company, and I don't make that kind of money. He said, I didn't either when I ran a hotel company. So, you know, look for the right reward. You have such an amazing opportunity to change the business. And most people think as long as this business has been around, there's probably not a lot of innovation and new ideas left. Oh yeah, there is, every day, in every way. And for my generation, we didn't make great innovation. We just ran the business. So I think it's really exciting. And a couple of really life lessons for you is, and by the way, just as a PS, don't worry about inventing anything. Steve Jobs did not invent the telephone. He made it better. The industry should innovate in a way which listens carefully to the customers. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should use them in that proportion. An example that I use in our industry is how much it was sleeping. And I share this with you just so you can look around in the workplace and take things and say, how could that be better? The example I use is 10 years ago, people started traveling with cell phones and laptops. Well, what does that mean? It means they needed more places to plug their devices in. And it took about 6 years for the industry to realize they should put outlets in more places. So don't do that. You don't need to invent a power outlet. You need to think about how you put them in places that your customer wants them to be. So imagine, as you look around in the way that you operate a business, what you could do more exciting. It's about your perspective on things. You know, perspective matters. Little girl goes to her mother, says, Mom, where do we come from? The mother says, well, we all come from Adam and Eve. Well, she's a little confused. She goes to her father. Dad, I didn't understand that. Where do we come from? Dad says, we have all evolved from ape. Now she's completely confused, goes back to her mother, says, Mom, I don't understand. You said we came from Adam and Eve. Dad said we came from ape. What's the story? She said, that's very easy to explain. I answered for my side of the family and your dad answered for his. Now, today's customer, you know, once upon a time, people went to hotels and they were just happy to have a room. Not today. Today, they want to come in and this one wants hyperallergenic soap. This one wants this kind of pillow. So responding to their needs and changing products is what you need to do, but here's the message. Products and technology innovation will never, ever substitute for genuine hospitality, genuine care for that person. This is a business of one-on-one. It is about recognizing human beings' needs and be there for them. That's what you do. It matters to every single person. And speaking of matter, another story, you'll hear a few of them. Little girl and her grandfather walking on the beach, and the tide had gone out and left hundreds of thousands of starfish laying on the beach, away from the water where they needed to be to live. And she picked up a couple of them, started bringing them back to the water, and the grandfather said, "What are you doing, honey? There's so many of them. What you're doing isn't going to matter." And she said, "Oh, it matters to this one, and it matters to this one." So what you do every day with every personal contact to people you work with and to others matters. Your real job is leadership. That is the real job. You know, you will never manage people. You will manage process. You will manage an enterprise, but you don't manage people, you lead them. Two great leaders. Oh, by the way, an example of not a good leader is, years ago, maybe 8, 9 years ago, this is almost true story, a pilot had ditched his plane in the water. And ditching means it's down in the water. And over the loudspeaker comes the voice, "Folks, this is the captain. I know we're in an emergency. Everybody's okay. If you look off to your left, you'll see the rescue boats approaching. If you look off to the right, you'll see a yellow life raft, and I'm speaking to you from there." That is not a good leader. There's a great old saying that to be a leader, you have to ride towards the sound of the battle. Towards the sound of the battle. I think you should regard every customer of a hotel, and by the way, just as a belief, for 45 years I've been doing this, I've never called people in our hotels guests. Why? We should treat everyone as a guest like they would be in our home. Welcome, warm, comfortable. But a guest in your home does not complain about the coffee not quite hot enough, or the juice not quite cold enough, unless it's your mother-in-law. But a customer in a hotel who has paid for that has the right to expect all of that. Treat them as a guest. Remember, they're the customer. It is a big difference. And what that customer wants is, just think about the simple stuff. What if they made a reservation for a crib and it was in the room when they got there instead of having to call and wait for it to come? Or go down to the restaurant on a second morning and the server remembered that they had tea yesterday, not coffee. Things like that. They're not hard. They come from care, concern, and the heart that desires to please. The leadership is important, and I'll give you 2 examples of ones that mattered to me. Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King said that if a man is to be a street sweeper in life, then he should sweep streets as well as Michelangelo painted or Beethoven composed. So when his time had passed, all those would say there was a great street sweeper. The point of that story, other than to be cognizant of the housekeepers and the bellmen and everyone else, is to remember that every job matters, and all we should try to do is do the best we can and help everyone else do the best they can. That line is important because it translates to leader number 2, John Kennedy, who you would know well from being here, an absolute amazing idol of mine, always has been. I mean, I'm a freak about it. I own his sunglasses, his ring, his just everything. Now, of course, John Kennedy was 43 years old when he became president of the United States. And among his many accomplishments, the one I want you to grasp onto is Apollo, who says on May 25th, 1961, that by the end of this decade, we will put a man on the moon and return him safely, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And this country needs to do that. Everyone thought he was nuts. And if it could ever be done, it would never be done in 10 years. We did not have rockets that could do that. We did not have technology that could do that. But his passion, leadership passion, made people follow and make those things happen so that 8 years 9 months, and 16 days later, Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. John Kennedy said, "One person can make a difference, and every person should try to." That's the message of leadership. Make a difference. And I mentioned earlier listening. A quick story on listening. You should listen. We all learn by listening. None of us are quite as handsome as we think we are. None of us are quite as smart as we think we are. The lesson of learning is a great story that, or listening, is told as follows. When I was a young assistant manager, we had a new GM come in, and kind of an arrogant guy. We walk around the hotel, we go in the ballroom, there our team, a banquet team, is all in tuxedos, and they're all prepping for a wedding reception that's going to happen that night. Everybody's busy working except this one guy in tuxedos leaning up against the wall, kind of doing nothing. I think this GM figured he was going to make a statement and show everybody he was on top of it, so he walks up to the guy, he says, "How much do you make a week?" The guy says, "About $1,000. Takes out $1,000, gives it to him, and said, "Now you get out of here and don't come back." He's pretty proud. He thinks he's made a big statement. He says, "Well, that's how we're going to do things around here. Anybody tell me what that guy did?" And the banquet manager said, "I'm not sure, I'll check, but I think he's the best man." So I think it's important that we kind of listen before we act. You know, I think that your opportunity, as I've said before, is to find the essence of hospitality reinvented. The essence of hospitality. It starts with the smile, it starts with the welcome, it starts with giving customers what they want. And you know more than anyone the power of social media. Reputation matters more than location. Be certain that your relationships are one of good standing. I will close also, and by the way, as I noticed this class is going to do really well, no offense to the fellas, but looks like about 70% of the class is female. You're in charge. One of the lessons I've learned is it's not a really good idea to upset the females. So a husband and a wife were married for 40 years. She passed away, goes to heaven, St. Peter's at the gate. She says, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm here. May I come in now? It looks so beautiful." He says, "Of course, but first you have to spell a word." She said, "What's the word?" And he said, "Love." Oh, L-O-V-E, and she's in. Now, a couple years later, her former husband comes up. She happens to be working the gate. He says, "This looks beautiful in here. Can I come in?" He said, "Well, first, how you been?" "Oh, I've been great since you passed." "I found a young girlfriend. I bought a boat, won the lottery, been all over the world. It's been amazing." Now he says, "Now can I come in?" And she said, "Yeah, well, you have to spell a word." "Well, what's the word?" "Czechoslovakia." So that's enough of the jokes. I am very happy for you and congratulate you as you go forth to change the industry and the world. Your opportunity is like no other in the history of the hotel industry's young future. I'm jealous of you for having that opportunity. I know you will do very, very well. Just do me a favor and remember those two things. The starfish that matters and President Kennedy's "one person can make a difference. Every person should try." I hope you do both. Congratulations to you all. Do well.